Well, from one passionate speaker to another as we celebrate this Earth Day here on Daytime Ottawa, I'm joined by Sharon. She is the Executive Director of the Enviro Center. Welcome to the show, Sharon. I mean, you heard Catherine McKenna and Lasse speaking. You know, we're just over 50 years in here of celebrating Earth Day. You know, have we made any progress? Do you have some of that, you know, enthusiasm and optimism that we heard from Lasse?
Well, yes and no. So technically, the official answer to that would be no. We have
Yeah.
not made progress. We're going up in emissions. Pollution is getting worse. It's not a good scene. We're in need of a lot of immediate action. But I really agree with both the previous speakers that we do have a lot of folks who are engaged and we have a lot of solutions. So there's a lot of potential to move forward for progress, even though we're not really seeing it yet.
For people that aren't familiar with the Enviro Center, tell us a little bit about what you do as a group at the Enviro Center.
Yeah, so we are an environmental not-for-profit organization. We are based here in Ottawa, and our focus is helping residents of Ottawa, so people, businesses, communities, find practical ways to reduce their emissions and reduce their environmental impact.
Well, this is a great opportunity then. Let's talk about some of those practical ways. What advice can you give to our viewers out there that they can make a difference as individuals?
Yeah, so that is a really, really big question. And it was interesting to hear the previous speakers talk about it, that we do focus quite a lot on individual action, but I completely agree that a lot of work has to happen at the government level. But today, I'm actually going to zero in on what you can do here in Ottawa. So if you
Okay.
look at our local emissions, the bulk of our emissions here in Ottawa come from the built environment, and that means our houses, our offices, our warehouses, all of our buildings, and largely from heating and cooling them. That's 45% of our emissions. And then another roughly 45% comes from transportation, so driving around in our cars, all the ways that we get from here to there. So that's 90% combined of our emissions here. And so really, the best thing you can do if you want to look at emissions reduction here in Ottawa as a resident is to look at those two areas. So
Yeah.
the first one being net zero your home. So we can cut all of the emissions in the built environment by improving our homes to be energy efficient, electrifying them to draw on 100% clean energy. And in broad strokes, we need to do all of this by 2040, which means about 20,000 of us need to do that this year. And then we need to do that every year, 20,000 each year until we're finished. So it's a huge task. And then the other really big one in terms of practical action being that transportation one. So really considering and making choices that reduce your emissions to zero. Most of our emissions right now come from driving around in single occupant cars,
Right.
beetling around town to work, to shop, to live. And these trips need to go to 100% electric or zero carbon by 2050. So in a practical sense, that means your next car, if you choose to get one, is electric. It means that the electrified public transit system that we are struggling to build, it really, really matters. And it means that any trips you can shorten, eliminate, or do via zero carbon transportation, like walking or cycling, pedaling, rolling in any sense, these all make a really big difference.
Sharon, I think too, I mean, one of my personal frustrations and, you know, talking to friends and family, and, you know, I give my brother as an example who lives in Canada in the suburbs, and, you know, to go and get a cup of coffee, to go to a restaurant, to go and do groceries, he has to get in his car. Do you think I know this is an obvious answer, but we need to do a better job of building our cities in not just in Canada, but all of North America, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, well, that's a huge one. So, and won't get this stat exactly right, but an interesting stat that we kind of toss around sometimes is that the whole circumference of Amsterdam, which is a great cycling city using a lot
Yeah,
of active transportation, can be fit into, I think, Vanier in Ottawa. So
really.
we have a really big surface area in our city, and you're absolutely right that that means that it is hard for people to get around without using their cars. Now, there are different ways to address that. Certainly planning for what we call 15-minute neighborhoods. So neighborhoods where you can get to all the things you need for work, to get groceries, to play, to do all of the stuff that you do within a 15-minute walk of where you live. So in terms of planning, that's the direction that we want to go. In terms of now, though, we have a lot of neighborhoods where that isn't the case, right? So
Right.
we can't just transform them overnight necessarily, but we can do a lot of things to improve active transportation infrastructure, to improve our transit system. There's so many good ways to make people want to be out of their cars and feel safe and healthier being out of their cars to live their lives and travel around their neighborhoods. So there's a lot that we can do, but we're not quite there yet.
Sharon, obviously, I would imagine a lot of what you're talking about, a lot of resources available on your website for our viewers at home.
Yes, yeah. So we really
Excellent.
focus on these big areas: green homes, green transportation, green city, green business. And so yes, please do go to our site and check it out.
Terrific.
We also run the Better Homes Ottawa website, which is a good
Oh,
place to go
okay.
if you want to learn about reducing your home emissions.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us, Sharon. Really appreciate it. And I challenge you at home as well. Try to bring down that air conditioning and that heating. It's easy to do. We'll be back with more after this.